broadcast. I've just pressed record.
Yeah. Hello and good morning. It's lovely to see you all here at Abbey House and online. Present for the Vale Cabinet meeting for the 27th of March 2026. We're getting through this year quite quickly, which is a bit scary. Thank you all for coming, as I said. Item number 1, Chair's announcements. I would like just to note that we had a by-election yesterday and would like to welcome Lee Evans as a new councillor for Stamford in the Vale after his victory in the by-election. I don't believe there are any other announcements to be made other than the fire regulations, which I'm sure you know by now, so I'm not going to go through them. Item number 2, apologies for absence. I believe Councillor Fawcett is not present unless he's online. So I think everybody else is in the room. Thank you very much. Minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes who was here at the last meeting?
Yes.
Everybody happy with the minutes? I'm happy to sign them off.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay.
We need to have a proposal.
I saw everyone nodding, so I'm happy
Thank you.
to take that.
Declarations of interest. Does anybody have any declarations of interest for today's meeting? No. Urgent business? None, nothing. I was going to say, I was watching, I think it must have been Councillor Popsall on the scrutiny meeting, and her introduction is so much better than mine. It's so much longer, and I feel a bit bad. So I do apologise for my lack of introduction. She does go through everything and makes me feel very inadequate. So item number 6, public participation. Did we have anybody registered?
Nobody today.
Thank you. And item number 7, recommendations and updates from other committees. There were none, none on the item today.
Yeah, nothing on the item today.
You want to?
I can just quickly, if you give me a second, I can grab that email.
Apologies, later.
That's all right.
Oh, you might want to tell me.
Okay, so the Vale Scrutiny Committee, they considered a report on the Beacon Development Action Plan Update 25-26, and they noted the progress made in implementing the Beacon Development Action Plan during the period of April 25 to March 26, including performance highlights and areas for improvement. And members fully supported the case for further investing in the Beacon, noting the value for money it provides measured by cost per service user.
Thank you. So that's useful. That's not coming back together.
No,
so
that's just
it's good to know now. Thank you, Councillor Pickhills, for being at scrutiny for that item. So we can go on to the substantive portion of our agenda now. So item number 8, dry mix recycler DMR reprocessing and haulage contract order. I want everybody to note that obviously this has a confidential aspect to this item, and if we in the course of the public meeting stray into discussions that could be confidential, we will have to go into confidential session. Now I just wanted to put it out now. Does anybody think that they will need to discuss the points that are made in the confidential sections? No. So I did ask officers to give us a nudge if we do stray into that, but hopefully we can just have an open discussion on item number 8. So, without any further delay, I will pass on to Councillor Clay to introduce that item.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Yes, so as I'm sure the Councillor is aware, we have a statutory duty to recycle dry mixed recycling. So that's what goes into your large green bin at home. And for many years, we've done that through a combined contract with BIFA, who have handled various different aspects of the waste collection process. But in 2024, Cabinet decided to separate out the different aspects of strands of the waste collection and processing activities. And so there have already been 2 other contracts agreed, I believe, at the Cabinet to handle other aspects. And this is the third, which is to do with what happens to our dry mix recycling after it's been collected and taken to the transfer station, how it's then taken away and made into something more useful later on. So there was a procurement exercise run, as I'm sure Cabinet's aware, that threw up a hiccup and has had to come back to Cabinet. And I'd like to thank officers for first of all noticing that we hadn't quite followed the new procurement rules to the letter, and catching that and their best efforts, or their excellent efforts to resolve that. And so the report you have in front of you sets out a new contract for how our household dry mix recycling will be handled at the outset of the new contract, and then obviously following the close of the current one. Without wanting to go into the confidential matters too much, you can see that a number of different aspects were considered. The quality of the activities, the environmental and social impact, and so on, and also the distance between the waste transfer station and the processing plant. Out of the multiple bidders, one was selected as being best, and happily that's also the closest. Few other things. Well, no. One other thing to note is that as of, I can't remember the exact dates, but sometime next year, the council will have to recycle soft flexible plastics, and with this contract in place, we will actually be able to do that significantly ahead of the deadline set by government. And I think this is probably all I need to say. I recommend this report to Cabinet.
Thank you, Councillor King. Can I open discussion, questions, comments? Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, thanks so much. So obviously for me the big marker on the horizon is local government reorganisation, and I noted in paragraph 15 we talk about the contract running for 16 years, subject to agreed extensions with a minimum period of 8 years and a break possible after 4 years. So the 4 years effectively would be, if LGR runs time, 2 years into LGR, into the new administration. And presuming that break point is can be called by either party, either ourselves, the new unitary authority or the contractor. So if the unitary authority decided it wanted to change the way it was going to collect waste, in this case, mixed recycling, they can initiate that. It's not just the contractor.
I believe so, but Paul will correct me if I have this wrong.
Paul,
Yeah.
you come in.
Yeah, I think so. Again, I don't want to pass everything on, but Scott is here. Scott will also be able to confirm exactly what the clause is. Scott, hopefully on the line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Paul. The clause is basically for the council to be able to invoke that break clause. So it's not on the contractor, it's solely on the council after 4 years, should it wish to do so. So it'll obviously either be Safe or Vale or what the new authority is.
Perfect. Thank you.
There's the hand up. Councillor Pickhills and then Councillor Pearson.
Looking at this from a practical resident's point of view, if we're ahead of the legislation with the collecting of soft plastics, presumably we're also ahead of the labelling that will be on the packaging, which currently says things like recycle at large supermarkets and that sort of thing. So I just wondered how we're planning to communicate this to our residents in order to make sure we're keeping up our recycling rates.
So on that particular aspect, we are anticipating that supermarkets will effectively take away those bins when the national legislation comes into effect. And we are anticipating that governments, the supermarkets, or some combination of both, will have some big publicity at that point. Since we are ahead of the game, we don't really feel there's a need to do anything extra. I'm sure, well, officers will correct me if I'm wrong, I think there will be a bit of publicity about how we're ahead of the game, we're doing this earlier than we need to, but we won't be going around supermarkets stopping people from putting their soft recycling into the bins there. We expect to do just a gradual transition, that as people realise they don't need to, they will instead put it into their large bin at home. Imagine supermarkets will spot this, their bins will fill up a lot less quickly, and then eventually, once the new rules coming nationally, then we expect they'll just take them away.
But I mean, presumably, unless we do something like put it on the council Facebook page and that sort of thing, people won't know, will they?
Paul's got his hand up, so I'll hit to Paul. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, just to back up what Councillor Clegg was saying there. So the legal requirement is that local authorities collect this material from next April 27. We're currently going through the project to work out when we will bring this in, and we hope that will be earlier than that. And it will involve a communications campaign to all our residents to advise them of how they can put some of these materials into their recycling bin. In terms of the information on the packaging, obviously that's with the manufacturers and the packaging manufacturers, but the legislation is likely to mean that there's going to be a harmonisation of that sort of information because of the way that the legislation is changing. But yeah, we'll be having a big comms push in due course, and we'll come back to members to kind of outline when that's going to happen and what that will look like in due course.
Thank you, Paul.
Councillor Forster.
Thank you. Looking at paragraph 24 on the climate and ecological impacts, mentions the good news that the MRF is 10 miles closer, which is good and obviously will have a positive effect on our carbon footprint. But later on in the paragraph, it mentions that we will start seeing a figure for how much energy is used in the processing, whereas that's not currently reported. And if we're capturing a figure that haven't reported on previously, is there a danger that we're suddenly seeming to be using more energy than we were, despite the fact that we're probably not?
I would expect that there would be, caveats into that reporting, and it may well be, I'm speculating, thinking about here, that we use the baseline when we start this new contract as the baseline for that strand of the climate reporting, and we look to improve that over time, rather than just having this big spike once it starts and saying, "Oh, everything's gone terribly." So there will need to be a bit of nuance and understanding in there, and we need to be careful to communicate that if it is significant. But we know it's coming. Right?
Thanks. You know me, I love a good reporting story.
Any further questions or comments?
Yeah, I apologise for this question in advance, actually, because it's a bit minor. And I'm not sure it can be answered today anyway, frankly, but on Appendix 1, there's a little table that shows what the original budget envelope was and what the winning bid is and how the amounts are divided up between the two councils. According to the original budget, the Vale was going to pay just over 48% of the total cost. Presumably there's a reason for that. Whereas on the winning bid, the actual amount that we are going to be paying, the Vale portion has gone up 49%, just over 49%, which means that had the winning bid proportion been on the same basis as the budget proportion, would be £12,000 a year better off. And I just wondered what the reason is for that difference, being aware that it's rather a highly technical question. Could be that officers can't answer that at the moment.
It sounds like a rounding thing to me.
Yes.
It's much more than a round. It's 48 to 49.
Simon.
Yeah, that's right.
I think the answer is that I must admit on this one, the actual detail of how the apportionments are worked out, I've not gone into the detail of, but the general point I'd make is that we are always looking at the apportionment. So by the time if I'm thinking in particular when this contract comes in and thinking of next year's budget setting, we'll have refined those estimates again. So I think you could probably only really take the numbers in the report as indicative as at today at a point in time, but they're subject to review. So when they come in, when the contract comes in future years, we'll keep that updated. What I would say is in the context of the Vale's budget, that sum of money would still be within the envelope if it was 48 or 49.
Well, did you want to add
Yeah.
anything?
Yeah, just agree with everything Simon just said. Just to say, generally, the apportionment is based on property numbers. And obviously property numbers vary and change within the authorities over time. But we are, as Simon said, we do keep the apportionments monitored all the time.
Thanks, Paul. And thank you, Simon. Are you happy with that as an answer? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So if there are no further questions or comments, we do not seem to need to go into confidential session. So I'm assuming Councillor Clegg, you would like to propose. Who would like to second this? Yeah, anybody? Yeah. And are we all agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Yeah. So thank you very much. I appreciate officers' input and the work that's gone into these reports. And obviously we've had a bit of a delay, but we've got there now, and I think that's really good that you've managed to go back and reinvestigate and look at this again. So thank you. And so that was the only item on the agenda. So we will say meeting closed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm staying with the brief.
I'm just going to close the stream. I think so. Are we going straight
I
on
was
to the
planning to say
briefing?
for briefing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.